Well, we got some issues. We got back to our landing pad over here, and the external mic is picking up some bizarre feedback. I don't know whether it's an internal problem with the sound card, but it's recording just fine internally. It could be a problem with the microphone, that the cords getting wore out or something. I don't know what's going on, but it sure is disturbing when your good mic is not up and running. I'm going to show you this. This is proof that smaller brown dwarfs contain lithium, and the reason they have lithium is because they're older, bigger stars that have collapsed, exploded, and left behind a remnant. The lithium is there usually by the degradation of beryllium and heavier elements, because there's really no fusion going on of helium into lithium any longer. That happened a long time ago with these stars, but now these stars are cooling down, and the lithium associated with brown dwarfs can be detected as these things put off coronal mass ejections themselves, Hyder flares themselves, and you can see this is especially, and that happens when lithium-1 takes an electron from one shell to another. When it goes from an outer shell and the electron comes back in closer to the nucleus, it releases 813 nanometers, along with other radiation too. And there's different isotopes of lithium that give out a vast array of irradiance, 760 nanometers, or is it 670? It goes on and on. There's a long list. NIST has a huge list of all the strong emission lines for all the lithium isotopes, and there's dozens. So if lithium gets into the corona of the sun, or gets into the solar system as it cools, or as it collides, or as it reacts with other elements, it produces different forms of radiation. But this is the main one when you take lithium-1 and you lose an electron orbital and it goes back down to a lower energy state. It gives off 813 nanometers. Well, this 813 nanometers is red light, infrared, and it's increasing, and it has no regard for how many sunspots there are. 2007, 2008 solar minimum, no decrease in this energy. Now we're in solar minimum. This one goes to 2017 solar minimum, and it spiked. But then we told you these graphs were going to be taken down. They were taken down like we told you they would. And then when they were put back up, here's your lithium emission spectrum. This is what is graphed. So we see that definitely censorship happened. And they'll say, oh, there was a mistake on the instrument and we did a correction. But these are measurements of energy. These are like taking the temperature of the sun. And it's not the only wavelength that's been smoothed out. And it's not the only wavelength that is increasing in and through all our solar minimums. So what this does is really call into question the idea that low sunspots can cause an ice age. I think they can, over a long period of time, cool the Earth, because that's been the trend. During solar maximums, we used to lose ice. During solar minimums, we used to gain ice. That's all gone out the window since about the late 90s. But this is ultraviolet C. This is extreme ultraviolet. This isn't the most extreme of the extreme ultraviolet, but this is 250 nanometers, and this is what people are measuring on the ground. Now you see a significant increase in about 2 or 3 units. Now somebody might say, well, it's only 1/1000th of a watt per meter. Big deal. Well, how many square meters are on half the Earth? The Earth has about 149 trillion square meters. Cut that in half, you have, 74.5 trillion square meters. So to figure out the total energy being absorbed by Earth, you would take 75 trillion and multiply it by your 1/1000th of a watt per meter squared, and you'll come out with hundreds of millions, if not billions, of watts of energy that's represented as just the increase since 2003, not the total irradiance, just measuring the increase, and the increase in that wavelength is in hundreds of millions of watts. So you know, carry this forward with this one. This has gone up by 4/100ths of a watt in just the past 10 years. 4/1000ths of a watt. Well, what the heck? Multiply 4/1000ths by 75 trillion, okay? And you're going to find out what the increase just in this wavelength. So there are other wavelengths on the sun that are decreasing because helium absorbs X-rays. Helium absorbs various kinds of energy, but it doesn't absorb ultraviolet C, and helium does not absorb 813 nanometer. So this proves that, and I just proved to you that the number of sunspots really doesn't dictate anymore what kind of energy is coming off your sun. But if this was true, and these rays were lighting up the corona, then all the planets should be feeling it. So the visual changes in the planets, well, some of them you can see with your naked eye. So especially Neptune went from a blue to a gray. So it's very, very interesting and strange times. It's very dangerous times we're living in. You want to protect your children, especially from this. If you're not going out in the sun, you really do need to take vitamin D3, unless you're drinking lots of organic milk, which I highly recommend you do, and goat milk as well. But when you're putting out extreme ultraviolet, then you can understand why they've increased the UV index from 1 to 10 to 1 to 15. Okay? And you can understand why some places are getting a UV index of 12 and 13, which in under 10 minutes would damage your skin. But remember, ultraviolet C penetrates the skin and damages the connective tissue that's just underneath your skin. That will cause soft tissue injuries. That would cause muscle strains, muscle tears, especially in the abdomen, shoulder, and anything that you're using. It would also cause hernias because the abdomen is loaded with connective tissue. It also can cause brainstem inflammation, which would lead to migraines, would lead to inflammation in the sinuses, would lead to loss of cognition, poor concentration, poor memory, lethargy, agitation, and behavioral changes, sleep disorders, and on and on and on. So protect yourselves from the radiation. You must wear nylon clothes. You must wear hats with drapes. You must put on sunblock. It's not so protect yourselves. Be aware. This might get worse for the next year and then start to taper off. We're not out of the woods. There's light at the end of the tunnel. We don't know if Earth has crossed the tipping point or not. That's why you got to be prepared. Floods, tornadoes, extreme heat, though, is your deadliest enemy. And until next time, be prepared and never scared.